Yeah, that's it. We're on.
G'day,
Stranger than fiction. We're back. Just when
Here we
are. Yeah, just when you think it's all over, we just keep coming back
for more. For more.
Just keep coming back. So, Trov, welcome. Thank you again for this.
Good to be here,
thing.
mate.
Yeah, this thing that we do. So, how's it going in the rabbit holes? What have you got to report on? You're still on the tick thing, aren't you? You love the tick.
I just think it's if you don't know about the tick thing, it's the fact that so there was a guy speaking at Davos, a very unassuming man. I think of maybe Indian. He's very much speaking with an American accent and just speaking very gently about the fact that people shouldn't eat meat. He says we shouldn't eat meat, and we actually have devices at our disposal that would ensure that people don't eat meat, such as this tick bite. If you get bitten by, what's the tick called? It's called something different in Australia. It's called the paralysis tick in the USA, and it's called something else in Australia. And he says we could use this tick, and because people don't know any better, and that would be, and he calls it, I think the words he uses, human engineering. Be a nice bit of human engineering. He's genuinely saying it, that to get people bitten by this tick against their will is good for humanity. And this is the mentality, absolutely, of these people. I mean, I think it's good that he's obviously, these people are so used to it's like people that are used to being surrounded by sycophants, isn't it? They're so used to being surrounded by yes men that they don't understand that what they're saying sounds genuinely insane. I mean, I'm sure there's places where it doesn't, and Davos is one of them. And he's really talking as though he's just making a sensible point. And I'm sure at the end of it, a lot of people would have given him a pat on the back and said, some people say this as though it's a controversial thing to say, but the way you say it as though it's just the way things should be is wonderful. He would have been given a lot of credit for that, and maybe that's where it's coming from. Either way, there has been all these reports. Now, these aren't so scientific, these ones. The boxes that are coming off the helicopters, as Joe Rogan pointed out. I just saw a clip of Joe Rogan talking about it, saying it's a bonkers idea, and that he knows that the statistics of the number of people being bitten by these ticks has definitely gone up. He still says, well, we can't be sure about, whether these boxes are being unloaded on people's farms. We don't know. We don't know the absolute truth of that. But it's a wild thing, is it not?
It is. So it is the paralysis tick, and it's linked to developing mammalian meat allergy, so-called alpha gall syndrome. After some tick bites, a person's immune system can become sensitized to a sugar molecule called alpha gal that's found in most mammal meats. Later, eating foods like beef, lamb, pork, venison can trigger an allergic reaction. So it looks like, according to the CSIRO, which I've got my reservations about the CSIRO, but anyway, I've got my reservations about pretty much everything in this world at the moment. Researchers reported diagnosed cases increasing about 22% per year since 2020. By 2024, about 787 Australians tested positive for alpha-gal antibodies nationally. So scientists link several things may be contributing. Wetter, warmer weather helping ticks to survive, more people living near bushland, increased outdoor activity, improved medical awareness and diagnosis, and people dropping ticks from planes and helicopters. I made that last one.
Aren't there tick subsidies as well? Like, if you're a tick, you can get a special kind of compensation from the government. Is there something like that?
I'm not sure about that.
That was a joke, mate.
Yeah, sorry. I was reading. Here he is. See you, Kev. So that's the update on the tick situation, guys. So if you see aeroplanes and or drones, who knows what they're sort of being. This is all a conspiracy theory on the internet, by the way. I think we're being a bit tongue in cheek. But if you see sort of little things falling from the sky shortly after, you might want to just sort of, wear your long sleeves for a few days.
I mean, it is worth, we did mention it last week, but it is worth mentioning that the people that benefit from this, obviously, not just... Actually, a question does need to be asked there, because if you are allergic to meat, does that mean you're not allergic to fake meat?
See, that's a very, very interesting point you've raised, and I'm sure...
Because I think there is something in that. Because it's funny, because people were implying that this is good for fake meat, and then I was thinking about it, and I was like, but it's still meat on a molecular level. It's basically cloning meat, isn't it? So... But maybe it doesn't have a certain additive. There's a certain amino acid. It has something to do with amino acids, folks. And the amino acid, there's something in meat that triggers this sometimes anaphylactic response. So
in
it
severe cases,
can be quite a severe thing. But there was a guy who was a friend of someone I was hearing on a podcast who said he had it, and he just really wanted to have meat, and he still desired the meat, and so he'd still have it, and then he'd be just really sick for a couple of hours afterwards every time he had meat.
Well, I actually was playing with a friend in the bush when I was, a kid. You always go to the bush and muck around and make bow and arrows and stuff. And we came home with a lot of ticks on us. We had ticks on us. Mum took us straight to the emergency, and a dude sort of had a look at the ticks and said, "No, they're okay, those ones, guys.
Did he dig them all out?
You're free to leave." I can't remember exactly how it went down. I mean, this is many years ago now. But yeah, they said, "No, that's these ones are the okay ones, guys." So,
because the thing you've got to be careful about doing with a tick is if you try to pull them out, you'll snap their body off from their head, and their head's still burrowing into you, and then that can take a long time for the tick to die. It's still got its poison up the front, and so it'll release all that poison, and then your body's got to reject it, and it can take like a month for that process to happen. So you don't want to do that. You've got to make them. You've got to make them let go, and it's not salt, of course. Salt's making a leech let go, isn't it? Now, there's something you got to do with a tick. You twist them is one of the things you can twist them. You can get them with tweezers and twist them, because if they're forced to turn around, that forces them to let go. You twist and pull. I've had that done to me successfully once, the twist and pull. It was in my back, so I couldn't do it myself. And then I've done it successfully once on my leg, but I think I've only ever had 2 or maybe 3 once when I was very little ticks in my life, so they're not around that often. Let's see if they're anecdotally the experiences go up. Anyone out there had a tick experience of late? And if so, has it put you off your steak sandwich?
Yeah, well, so I've just punched into ChatGPT, would you still be allergic to lab-grown meat? And it says probably not necessarily, but scientists are still studying this. People with alpha-gal syndrome react to sugar molecule called alpha-gal found in most mammalian tissues. Whether someone reacts to lab-grown meat depends on how the meat is produced. So, I mean, we could be just absolutely talking out of our bums here, or we could have just cracked... we might have just broken the internet on, what's really going on here. Now, speaking of conspiracy theories, my mates at Iconic, right, the Icke family, had an episode recently on a patent being filed for nanotechnology being controlled from essentially like a remote control. So basically, nanotechnology being in our bodies, right, that seems to be raining from the heavens and in our food and all these other nefarious places. And also, there is, upon my research on this, Trov, right, there was there's patents exploring or trying to obviously patent the technology for screens, right, for screens to affect the electromagnetic field of the person watching said screen, which then inadvertently can control the nanotechnology. Now, the real proper hardcore conspiracy theorists have been saying for a while, and I'm talking like proper tinfoil hats, that the 5G, everyone just getting so horny for the 5Gs, with the combination of these injections that a lot of people have been sort of exposed to, mean that you can just control basically people's vibes. It's like a vibe controller. It's like standing behind, like if you're Dr. Evil, if you're Dr. Elite in your tower, you can stand behind a mixing board with the 5G towers and say, press the panic button, press the happy button, press whatever button you like. You know what I mean? So that's a thing. We've talked about that before, the nanotech. It's a very, very scary thing. And a lot of these, like, I'm talking real...
Do you think it's real?
I 100% think it's real, yeah. I mean, they've
been spending billions of dollars on this for a long time, and we know, through people just like Robert Monroe, for instance, and then all the people that have talked about, because that whole... what's the main conspiracy theory that involves this sort of technology? They used a lot of acid, and they used a lot of... so they've been spending a lot of research and a lot of money in many different angles, and we know that there's this nanotechnology going on, and we know that frequency and vibration is everything, and that there are biological. We know also there are biological weapons that can make people do things that they don't want to do. For instance, they can get people to. Is it called The Manchurian Candidate? Is it that movie?
Yeah.
That movie that's about and the guy just, you can get a trained assassin. But these are hypnosis principles as well. I mean, you've seen it. You've seen some of these amazing hypnotizers. So we know that science is there, the science of hypnosis. And we know that you can trigger these things so that someone will do something on request, on a signal. It's all absolutely wild stuff, and you can understand why people roll their eyes and say, what nonsense. But at the same time, there's so much evidence for it. Like there's so much evidence for the fact that we're absolute weirdos. People just don't like to look at that evidence, or they like to laugh at it, or they like to think of it. But at the same time, we're all so gullible once we're in a room with the hypnosis and we see this stuff happen. And the way we act towards magic, magic tricks that seem impossible, we all want to believe that. So we're a weird bunch of people for being so skeptical of everything. We actually believe so much as well, don't we? So anyway. This is Chat GPT, right? Now, this isn't my paid for version. This is one that I've just quickly bumped up here on the computer of Radio Blue Mountains. And I said, so how is nanotechnology being used right now? Like, let's get some proper examples. The first example it came up with, now ChatGPT is normally very unconspiratorial. It does all it can do to steer you away from conspiratorial nonsense. In other words, it's been programmed to propagate dominant paradigms and mainstream ideas. Correct. However, the first example it brings up is mRNA vaccines. The best known example is the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines. Wow. They use lipid nanoparticles, microscopic fat bubbles that protect the fragile mRNA, help it enter human cells, release it inside the body. Cancer treatment. So some chemotherapy drugs are packed in nanoparticles to improve delivery and reduce damage to healthy tissue.
medical imaging, MRI scans. I think it might be used in the contrast.
But my understanding of nanotechnology is that it's kind of like a little baby robot. Like it's actually. Is this correct? Does nanotechnology? So I just want to back up and just see what it actually means, because I thought it kind of meant it's human-made, kind of almost robotic technology on a tiny micro scale. I think that's my understanding of it. I hope that's somewhere near to what it actually is, because I have thought about nanotechnology quite a bit, and there's been a lot of talk about it. That's for sure.
So my question was this: can it self-assemble inside the body? Yes, some nanotechnology can self-assemble inside the body, but not in the sci-fi tiny robots building themselves sense people often imagine. In biology and nanotech, self-assembly usually means molecules automatically organizing themselves into structures because of chemistry and physics. So here's what I believe the world of technology and health is going. So it's the use of these nano, particles, and what you can do is essentially program them to attract or repel certain other cells inside the body. So it's very common in drug release systems, it says here. Some nanoparticles are designed to stay inactive in the bloodstream, then reorganize or open up near tumors, acidic tissue, or inflammation. Peptide nanofibers, researchers molecules that assemble into tiny fibers or scaffolds inside the tissue. DNA origami. That sounds great. What's that about? Scientists can fold DNA into nanoscale shapes that self-assemble according to programmed base pair rules. So I had a bit of a rant, and I did a bit of digging a while back, and I was trying to work out all this investment from these places like In-Q-Tel and all these private hedge funds and these super funds and stuff. They're all investing in nanotech, and I think it's around the programmable. The essentially what we're moving towards is that biology is programmable by computers, essentially. AI. Yeah, and we are really on the.
It's an interface between computers and mankind. I mean, this is just totally my imagination, but you think about it. We're going into this new digital age where AI is going to be universal. We're building these huge data centers, which, for one of the big reasons why they're happening so fast. Obviously, there's lots of reasons why they're happening so fast, but I know one of the big reasons is you've got to have them built by 2030 in order to get this huge tax break. So in other words, they've incentivized very heavily the building of them so fast. So that's a financial reason. It still doesn't explain why, because that why is the reason why they've made the tax break, because they want them, the powers that be want them. And that wouldn't be the government. That would be the people above the government saying, get some very serious incentives in place to make sure these data centers go up quick, smart. So when you think about that, and then you think about nanotech, it seems to be, and then you think about the fact that all these companies are spending huge amounts of R&D into nano. It seems to be all pointing in the same direction, doesn't it? I mean, I don't think that's drawing too long a bow. I think if you really think about it, there's real reason behind why that might be all on the same page. And also, the main thing is you don't see sensible articles being written about it. And when people are spending lots of money on something and sensible articles, it means they don't even have a narrative for this. And the reason why they don't is because it's part of the control. It might be. Again, this is purely my imagination, but I think I could be onto something. I think it might be, the fact that it's part of the control grid idea.
So
What do you
on my
think?
on my deep dive, right, and I think there'll come a time, it could be 10 or 15 years away, that we will be sold the idea that having nanoparticles swimming around our bodies will actually be a great thing, because it will link to our wearable tech, right? That basically will be sold to us as a diagnostic tool, and then this floating nanoparticles can be remotely programmed to do certain things, right? That's where exactly like what you said. I think the nanotechnology is the link between the computer world and the biological world. So to put it in perspective, I skipped over this little factoid at the top here. So nanotechnology, so this is the size of nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is the science of working with extremely tiny materials and devices, usually between 1 and 100 nanometers wide. For comparison, a human hair is about 80,000 to 100,000 nanometers wide.
Okay, so this is non-human technology. This is what I've been hearing. No, but okay, a rabbit hole, and again, this is coming just from pure intuition, but I was listening to someone who's talking about the size of circuits and how circuitry has got just so small. It's just absurdly ridiculous. And he was just saying this is not human tech. When it gets to that level, in his opinion, it's a different type of technology. And that happened in the transistor. Like, that happened quite a long way back. The transistor, or that technology, where that went to, was definitely reverse engineering, or it was coming from somewhere beyond, because we made these little leaps that made. So even though, according to people like Stephen Greer, the lost century, we have not reverse engineered things like anti-gravity technology and stuff like that, but a lot of the jumps in human technology have come from reverse engineering non-human technology. Is a theory that's a very big one, and maybe this nanotechnology could be an example of that. Either way, those statistics are incredible when you're talking about what is a hair is 220,000, or so in other words, it's less than 1,000th of a width of a hair.
Yeah,
is what you're talking about. These scales are just wild.
So I said to ChatGPT the following: is it safe to say that we all have some kind of nanotech in our bodies already? The answer is yes. In a broad scientific sense, most people already have found some form of nanotechnology related material in their bodies, either from medicine, consumer products, food, or the environment, right? But it depends on exactly what you mean by nanotech, it says. Naturally occurring nanoscale structures, your body itself is full of nanoscale biology, machinery, DNA, proteins, da-da-da-da-da.
But that's not nanotech.
That's not what we're talking about. So engineered nanoparticles people are commonly exposed to: sunscreen, zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, cosmetics, food additives, pollution, clothing coatings. They actually, David Icke, I'll get back to this, remind me about that later, medicines, and then tiny particles can enter the body through skin, lungs, digestion, infections. So medical nanotechnology, mRNA vaccines, nanoparticle-based cancer drugs, silver nanoparticle wound dressings, environmental nanoparticles, vehicle exhaust, industrial emissions, smoke, dust. Okay, so that doesn't help our tinfoil hat stuff, but it's interesting, and it's clearly where the money is
normalising it though. A bit.
Yeah,
it sounds like the language of normalisation to me.
Yeah,
which look, I don't know what it is, but I do know that this control grid has to be the main agenda on the planet. That's what it is, guys. I mean, that is not stretching a boat. What are they spending billions of dollars on? They're spending it on these information systems. What's that about? That's part of the control grid. There's no one saying it's not. That's the thing. Like, everyone's saying that's what it is, and there's no one really saying it's not, are they? Is there anyone saying that these data centers aren't for the control grid?
I think everyone's saying that. But the people that are building them are definitely saying that.
Well,
so I asked ChatGPT, are there patents to control nanoparticles through TV screens? And it says there are patents involving electromagnetic fields, wireless signals, nanoparticles, medical imaging, or drug delivery. Now, so David Icke was banned from coming to Australia largely because as soon as the COVID thing hit, he was claiming that... And look, a lot of people... This is conspiracy central, right? But a lot of people were saying that no matter how locked down we were... this emphasis on these 5G towers being built like at hyperspeed around the place. So look, yes, let's just connect some dots. I used to think
this was nuts.
And so David Icke came out straight away and saying there's nanoparticles and silver oxide. Graphene oxide he claims was in the vaccines. They are able to be controlled, through the use of these 5G towers. As soon as he said that, that was the point where he was scrubbed off YouTube, all social media platforms except for X. I think he was scrapped from X, then he came back later when Elon Musk took it over. But he was basically scrapped from the internet entirely and was banned from coming to Australia. And you know what? Like, it's so funny with that guy. Like, he just, as time goes on, like... And maybe it's not. Yeah. Maybe it will never be 100% proven and out in the domain to a point where everyone's admitting this. But you got to admit, like, it's not. If you're down the rabbit holes as much as we are, it's just not that much of a stretch to say that he's onto something.
But he was saying, in 1994. I saw him talking then, and he was just talking all about the digital control grid, all about getting rid of money, all about bringing in digital currency. This is in 1994. He's the man. I believe he's made. So my theory on him is a little bit borrowed from my good old Gnostic teacher, who says that he's got incredible intuition, but he also has quite a big ego, and sometimes imagination, and so sometimes that can cloud his so his intuition is very good, but he joins the dots a bit. So I think what he's incredibly good at is diagnosing what's wrong with the system. He is looking at what the system's doing and what the people within it are up to. That is where I've got to say, personally, I've found him to be incredible, especially in his predictive capacity. Just anyone out there listening in Radio Land, and we've met a few of you too, people who like the show. Yeah, why would you be listening? Shout out to all you wonderful folks. But go and I really do urge you, because it's really quite illuminating. Go and have a look at some of the things he was saying in 94 and 96, just around there, around the late 90s, that were stuff that didn't happen until, the second decade of this century. So he was really ahead of the curve. And I just think that anything he's onto, and I think with this nanotechnology, he's absolutely, his intuition is bang on. I think sometimes he just goes a little bit too far into the demonic kind of realms of things. But hey, nobody's perfect. He's an incredible, and I don't like it when he gets too bitter and twisted about the people who, because it's like, mate, that's that's part of the job, and try not to get caught up in it. Just be appreciative of the fact that a lot of people love you, and focus on that, because it seems to me that he should be a little bit more positive than he is, or he gets bogged down more than you'd like him to. I'd just like him to kind of, because a lot of people in his position are actually there because of their kind of love and light, for want of a better word. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
And he doesn't seem to do that love and light thing, and I'd kind of like to see him do that a bit more, just sort of, because he should appreciate himself and his trajectory a bit more than he does. It's kind of like he's bogged down by the negative a bit too much, or do you not see that so much when you know him a bit better?
I subscribe to his website called Iconic, and when it's just him in front of a camera, that all drops away, and he just gets into his research. And I think that's good. He gets sort of very, very narky on like interviews, but he's been very, very negative on, which is another thing I wanted to talk about on the show, on our mate Professor Zhang, right? So,
is that right?
Yeah, Professor Zhang came out in an interview and said, "I'm really surprised by how scathing David Icke is on my work. He just rips me on X constantly." And I noticed just as I was coming to do the show, I had a little flick through the Iconic website, and Jamie Icke did essentially a whole... Jamie Icke's his son. He's got two sons that help run this Iconic.com. Really interesting documentaries and stuff. It's worth checking out. But he did a full episode on the fact that he thinks the reason that the algorithm is promoting Professor Zhang so heavily is because it's a narrative, it's a pre-programming, essentially, narrative that they're trying to push. So Professor Zhang says things like this war will go on pretty much indefinitely, this whole Middle East, Strait of Hormuz, this will never really 100% resolve. He says that billions of people on the planet, if it goes the way he's predicting it will go, will die, partly due to desalination plants being targeted, and it's just going to go on and on and on and on and on. And Jamie Icke saying that's a perfect way to pre-program. We talk a lot, and on the last show we talked about Netflix, the movie industry, the TV shows. They're all sort of not necessarily getting us in agreement to what's happening, but just planting these seeds of what the essential plan is for this realm of Earth. And Jamie Icke made some interesting points. I didn't watch the whole thing, on the fact that he thinks that's because Professor Zhang's in the last 18 months rise to fame algorithmically, and this is what David Icke talks about a lot. And I think there is something to be said for good content's good content and bad content's bad content, right? As creating a little bit of content myself, I kind of get that. But at the same time, you do have to be a little bit wary. And I think Professor Zhang is not part of it. He's not some agent getting money on the side to do this. It's just a perfect... He explains the future in such a cohesive way. And if that's what the sort of, what they want us to be understanding and learning and stuff, it's phenomenal how popular he got so quick. Just be careful when you tap the table; it comes through the mics. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You got to get the narrative of what they want to happen. They need to get that narrative into the consciousness. So this has taken me quite a long time to kind of get my head around. I'm still getting my head around it, but. Because we were talking about it, why do they do it? Why do they do these things? So the movie like The Matrix is a very important movie because it is training the public with concepts that are foundationally kind of real and very difficult to get your head around. The idea of us being part of a simulation. Now, essentially, I believe, and it's a tough one because I believe we are part of a simulation, but not quite in the way. I mean, in a sense, in a philosophical sense, absolutely in the way that The Matrix is making it out to be. I mean, I agree. This is an esoteric view of life. This is so The Matrix comes purely from the esoteric school of thought. Now, if you could get ChatGPT to do that, I haven't done it myself, but I know it's very good when looking through an esoteric lens. Tell me how the Matrix is a esoteric fable, and it basically is 100% in the realm of esotericism. So it's important to get these things into the consciousness, otherwise, in order to make them possible to achieve. And that's why this biblical lens is being used by atheists. They don't care. But a lot of atheists in AI are using the biblical lens of this sort of demonic presence that AI is. They're using this narrative. They're letting this narrative get... Elon Musk came out with this narrative, and then in order to serenade Elon Musk, the guy who went into business with Elon Musk, the guy who went into business with Elon Musk, who was he? One of these big guys. He mimicked that narrative about AI being a demonic force. And so they very purposely put that out into the public sphere in order to get people to look at it like that. And these guys are atheists. Some of them that say these things are atheists. So why, it's a big question, and it kind of rattled my brain. I was kind of like, what's going on there? And it's like, it doesn't matter whether they're atheists or not. And they're probably not full atheists. They're probably more of the esoteric ancient beliefs. They're just not Christians. And because this is something different to that. This is all about, because it is about physics, it's about the science of manifestation. It's all about that, How do you manifest something? First, you've got to believe it to be true, right? If you believe it to be true, you can will something to happen. That science, that is a scientific principle of creation. If you think about anything that's creation, it starts off in the brain and then it ends up in reality through a process that has a lot to do with the envisaging of it, then the planning of it. And of course, a practical process happens and we say there's nothing strange about it at all. But remember, it all starts in the brain as a thought. And so that's where it has to begin. And the more people thinking of things, and everyone in the creative profession knows this too, when they come up with a really new idea for a film, it's almost invariable that someone else has come up with that same idea and they're both writing the same. They could be very different scripts, but they end up coming to the market at the same time because these ideas are real things. They're things that they spark, they're energetic and people can sense them and pick up on them and mimic them. And this is the way public thought happens. It's like the 4-minute mile, that was a huge barrier. As soon as it was broken, it's a psychological break and everyone started doing it in a way that made no scientific sense. Well, the science is that the barrier was broken.
Sure.
So it's the same concept. It's got to be thought to be possible first. If everyone thinks something's impossible, then it's very hard for it to happen because they're not able to envisage it, and that's where creation begins. And so you've got to get, and that's what all this coming back to nanotechnology, that's what it's all about, is getting people on the same page. And that's why we're all being brainwashed. So that if we step outside of that narrative, everyone calls them conspiracy theorists. And now the weird thing is the conspiracy theorists are the ones that are like, oh, right. People are there's a lot of people starting to think, oh, right, they're onto something. And where does that lead us? It leads us somewhere different, but maybe it doesn't lead us to somewhere that they don't like. Maybe it leads us to somewhere where they think is potentially a different form of narrative that still can be coerced and controlled, just a weirder one.
Well, I think people like Elon Musk, for example, he makes these really bold predictions about the future. Most recently, he said something around, in 5 years, there will be over 1 billion humanoid robots interacting with society, and it will be just totally normal for every household to have a robot, walking around doing chores and stuff. And I don't think, and he is renowned even by his fans, that what he says is highly unlikely to be actually accurate, because his predictions and his planning on all the cars coming out and blah 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 are all just wildly sort of
he doesn't really
positive.
care.
But my point is here that he's another really big influencer in telling you what the future will be, rather than, do we all think that that's a great idea? And I think by all these different sources, getting back to Professor Zhang's and Jamie Icke's critique on him being more for algorithmically pushed through a, as a perfect pre-programming scenario, I think it does track. And I don't think Professor Zhang's been bought or any of that. But I do think it could very much be, part of the sort of general direction, and there is something sneaky about us. If we just accept that that's our future, we all of a sudden have kind of inadvertently agreed to it. And if Elon Musk says it's 5 years and it ends up being 20, we just but we still know that that's sort of essentially coming. And I see, maybe it's my algorithm, but I see so much robotic dogs from coming out of China. So China are often now when they're doing they're not necessarily big sort of military parades, but they're officers are walking the streets, and there's literally a humanoid robot walking along with the officers. And I think that's just perfect pre-programming to sort of, and everyone goes, oh, wow, look at the future and look at what's kind of happening. And we are subconsciously buying into that being a path of the future in a way. And in a darker, stranger way, we're sort of agreeing with it. You know what
Absolutely,
I mean? Like
yeah.
we're buying into that being part of our future. And I think I also think the rush on the data centers is I think they know, and I think it's happening really quickly, by the way, that the public are starting to push back, ask really important questions about the environmental impacts and who benefits from these data centers. And I think they're wanting to get as many built now and push through before the people really wake up and say, actually, I think they need to go through more of a parliamentary process, or there needs to be far more checks and balances here. Is this a good thing? But you've got these clowns, these elites and high influencers and the algorithms, pushing these autonomous vehicles, humanoid robots. And I've even thought about, how much it would be, like, I'd love to have a robot in the laundry just purely as a gag, right? Like, trying to help. It's probably not going to help that much, but I'm not stealing any jobs because it's not replacing a human, right? And but it's like, why am I thinking that? Why am I thinking that would be fun? And why am I looking at how far they are from from being retailed in Australia? Because I've been subject to that pre-programming of that's the way we're going.
I definitely think you're putting a robot somewhere. You're putting something who can potentially be your enemy. It's the same as the car technology. It's got to a stage where your car is not on your team. It's not. Already we're past that point. If you're buying a vehicle with the technology that's being built into the vehicles at the moment, at this level, you're buying something that could potentially do you harm at someone else's behest. That's not conspiracy theory, folks. That is where we're at. And I think that principle is the principle. That's your washing machine. That's your television. That's everything. That's everything that's technology can be used as a weapon against you. And again, it does sound wacky, but I think it's where we're at, folks. I think that's where we're at. And where we're at is very strange. There's no doubt about that. But we're at this place, and we've got to look at it. We've got to look at it and try to understand how we can navigate it. I don't know. It's a worry.
Well, I think I was talking to my dear cousin today. I haven't seen him for a long time, and he probably didn't realise how conspiratorial I have become. But I actually think that one of the biggest steps and one of the most important things that we can do is explore ways, or somebody to come up with a phone that is, that basically is not as trackable as I think that could be an incredibly important first step.
They've got them.
And
They've
social
got
media
systems.
apps that aren't as trackable and persuadable. So I think that's a huge thing that we can be doing. I think I've told this story before, but there was a guy who bought a new washing machine, and it had a feature where you can, if you connect it to the internet, you can it's done, right? It's supposed to be effective, whatnot. But he realized he had a very small internet, allowance. He had one of the smallest plans, so he was very aware that he used almost no internet. But all of a sudden, his bills went through the roof, and his data usage went through the roof, and it was his washing machine collecting data on his power usage and all that sort of stuff throughout the home. And
so your washing machine is your spy. I mean, that's why I use that, because I've heard you say that story before, and it's like your washing machine can be. So it's being a spy, and you're being compromised. Your information's being compromised because of your washing machine. It is beyond the ridiculous. It's beyond something out of the Twilight Zone. You look at it and you go, "That's just silly," and yet it's not silly. It's real, and I think that's that says it all. So we're at a stage where everything's kind of been weaponized, and in a way, it's a good thing. There's always good. I mean, it's what you got. Your brain, you can't sort of be swamped by it and say it's all bad, because it wakes you up to the realization that you got to be alert to this stuff. You got to be aware of it, and you got to try to flip it. You've got to somehow try to flip it and say, how can I use this weirdness to my advantage? And I'm sure there are ways that can be done, although none are really coming to mind right at this point in time.
Oh, well, look, I do think I have a little bit of hope for, society. I think there's been the awareness alone on certain recent topics is important, and I think they are watching that and sort of getting some sort of feedback. And I do think at some point there will be an obvious pushback on all this kind of stuff. And I've watched, 2 years ago, I was screaming about our gas exports not being taxed correctly. And I was really shocked. I really expected the last election for there to be so much more support for some of the minor parties, because we're just being lied to by the two major parties. I don't know if politics is actually going to fix anything, but now it's happening. All of a sudden, people are voting One Nation, even though they probably don't even really know what that's all about. I don't think they're the answer either. But so these things are actually happening, and we are getting, and they will need to put some of this stuff into their next campaigns.
And they overturned the law that stopped the minor parties being able to monetise, and there was a bad law that went through in Victoria, and they overturned that.
Great.
And now they are talking about the gas tax. And Albanese is trying to belittle that conversation. He's trying to say, it's just a few social media people talking about that.
Yeah.
But it's not.
No.
It's big.
It's growing, and people are talking about it. So I do think that we have a little bit more sway than we like to think sometimes. So hopefully there's a little bit more...
Mostly coming from us.
Positivity, in the future.
But another issue that I think needs shedding light on. Can I add one to the little pit? I just heard, when you hear a voice that speaks of something in a very grounded way. I like it when they're not speaking with anger and they're not speaking like a protester. They're just speaking like a very reasonable human, And this girl, Joanna Moncrief, she's just talking about the link between serotonin and depression, and the fact that that link has always been a tenuous link. And she was part of a paper that was published in 2022 and received a lot of media attention that basically shows that there is, there's no causal link between the two at all, and that this idea has been pushed without sufficient evidence by the pharmaceutical industry. So 20% of people in the UK are prescribed antidepressants, about 15% in Australia. And I mean, it just shows that these people have an incredible amount of power and influence, that you can get 1 in 5 people in the UK onto these drugs, which are very hard to get off, by the way, very difficult to get off these SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, I believe that means. I was prescribed them at one stage for a symptom of narcolepsy called cataplexy, but I went off them. I didn't really notice them either way, to be honest, but they didn't cause me too much problem, but they do cause people problems. And the fact is, the evidence between them, the evidence for them being beneficial for depression is very scanty, and yet so many people are on them, and yet it does a lot of things like reduces sex drive, sometimes permanently. It really, and remember, the sex drive is really the measure of your life force in a way, by every metric. It's a really important part of being human, the sex drive. And when something as just its primary side effect, and that they're being given it and there's little causal link. I know they did one study to see the effectiveness of these SSRIs. They compared it to people doing 1 hour of half an hour of exercise a day was better than these SSRIs in terms of how you treat depression. So just an example of the power that these companies have when they get together. I mean, it's a cabal. They're not just thinking these are going to be good for people. They're just thinking this will work. This will work. Let's give this a red hot crack.
Well, so recently I believe that brain chemistry was studied again and found to sort of essentially debunk all that we thought that we knew about what was going on with depression and low serotonin levels. And these SSRI drugs, which are really popular, were essentially kind of led to be null and void in a certain way. So I asked here, ChatGPT, apparently the whole brain chemistry thing has been debunked. Can you elaborate? And it said, yes, the idea that depression is simply caused by a chemical imbalance, or specifically low serotonin, has largely been considered an oversimplification by modern psychiatry and neuroscience for years. A major 2022 umbrella review of molecular
That's the one I'm talking about.
Found there was no convincing evidence that depression is directly caused by low serotonin levels. What got debunked specifically was the simplified idea depression equals low serotonin and antidepressants fix the imbalance. Scientists now think depression is much more complex. What researchers realized, many depressed people do not show consistently low serotonin. Some people with low serotonin are not depressed. Antidepressants can help some people, even if the serotonin theory is incomplete. Depression involves many systems, not just one chemical. So, and it says modern theories involve combinations of genetics, stress, trauma, inflammation, sleep, hormones, brain circuits, social isolation, metabolism, and neuroplasticity.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, good on you. Good work on that one, ChatGPT. So there you go. I mean, and look, I'm frightened of this all these Wegovy and Ozempic, these GLP-1 antagonizers. It is not. I just don't think slowing down, right? And Tim Dillon has a hilarious take on this whole thing.
Love that man.
That basically, like in America, they're super keen on giving young kids now GLP-1 drugs, right?
Explain GLP-1 drugs.
Which is Ozempic and Wegovy, so the weight loss drugs. So what it essentially, the way I understand what happens is there's GLP-1 receptors in the digestive tract. By antagonizing them in a certain way, it slows digestion. It makes you feel fuller for longer, right? And it just makes you kind of really, you have this instinctive, this is from people who I know take these, when they look at a, like a bunch of meatballs in an oily sauce, that really turns them off. Like they kind of go, oh, I don't want that kind of in my body. But how can it, like, from what I understand about health and well-being, why on earth would you be wanting to slow the rate of digestion through your tract? And here's the other thing about GLP-1 antagonizers is there's GLP-1 receptors in our brains, in our kidneys, and all throughout the body that have never really been through a 3-year course of Ozempic and Wegovy. So all these, so you're slowing down bodily functions. So I do think, right, the juice, and I also think and maybe I'm crazy, but I also think with the vaccines, for example, and these receptors, there is a use case for certain people within a certain threshold of maybe obesity, where it could be sort of morbid or whatever. And I'm not an expert, I know nothing about health, but I just think that there was a cohort that this drug the juice would be worth the squeeze, and the risk could be worth the reward. If you can shed 30 kgs
I agree. I've seen
and
it.
stay vital, good for you.
Good for you.
But all of a sudden, I think, like anything in the world, the drugs are approved, and the umbrella of who should be taking it and who we're marketing those drugs to is just getting broader and broader and broader. Now it's weight loss, purely weight loss. And it's also getting into the younger cohort. In America, they're just absolutely horny to get it on the NHS schedule. So everyone can have them all the time, right? And young kids that might not be having a great diet, they might be on the chicken nuggies, right? Having the GLP-1s at the same time. I just think it's an absolute recipe for disaster. And I think, like with a lot of the health outcomes and stuff, it'll be in 10 years, like between 5 and 10 years, here's my prediction, knowing nothing about anything, that there'll be a massive pullback on these GLP-1s. And it will go back to where it started, which is it's a great drug for people with this particular health outcome, and it's but at the same time, Trov, here's a really, really strange thing. These GLP-1 drugs are also doing weirdly wonderful, miraculous stuff. So people that weren't able to conceive kids are all of a sudden like were never ever and been tested and been through the whole thing are conceiving.
Fertility.
Yes. And there's a whole bunch of other really mysterious things, miraculous health things happening with GLP-1s. So it is weird. The whole thing's weird. It's a
very
nuanced
strange, very
conversation.
strange. I mean, my feeling is like from a doctor's point of view, they're like, oh, mate, I mean, a couple of years ago, we were telling everyone to take COVID, for God's sake, and you think this is a problem? Shut up. You know what I mean?
We thought, and this is a terrible example, and people love to talk about this, but, we thought smoking, doctors were recommending cigarettes for things until, the 60s or something?
50s, yeah.
50s. So, I mean, are we that? And look.
3 out of 4 surgeons smoke Camel.
Yeah, lucky strike. Yeah, it's just wild. And I think we're so keen on just getting stuff into bodies. And I think, unfortunately, these GLP-1s are, like the greater populace on them now are actually the guinea pigs in a way, and it might all be fine, and there are some, there is, I do trust some level of medicine to do trials and get it right, but not all the time.
There must be something good in them if they're increasing people's fertility. I mean, is that just I'd like to dig into that. Is that just a one-off freaky sort of thing? And therefore, can they really relate it to I mean, you'd have to have quite a few examples of people taking Ozempic and who were used to be infertile for it to kind of do you know what I mean? For it to be causal.
There's another one, right? So there are some cohorts of health people that blame, and this is really interesting actually, very interesting stuff, that they blame the what's the sort of glandular fever chickenpox virus? What's that one called? There's a broad term for it.
Oh, I thought they were separate things.
It's a particular, anyway, it's the Epstein-Barr virus, right? Which the majority of the population have, and once they have it, they have it, right?
Yeah.
And that there's a very, very like hardcore group of practitioners, doctors, whatever, that have spent their lives investigating that as a root cause of a lot of the byproducts, and a lot of these other diseases are spread from having this Epstein-Barr.
You've got to have that in the first place. If you don't have it, and the majority of the planet has it. The majority of the planet?
Yes. And what's been happening with these, again, with these GLP-1 drugs, they're actually essentially curing people of having the Epstein-Barr virus in their systems.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've just asked ChatGPT, our mate G, what are some of the miraculous things happening with use of GLP-1 drugs that weren't intended? So I don't think it's understood the question too well. So it's heart health, kidney protection signals, reduced inflammation, effects on fatty liver. I was more looking for sleep apnea improvement. No, it hasn't taken my question. Let me ask it about the women conceiving miraculously. Just to see if there have been anecdotal reports of women becoming pregnant while taking GLP-1s.
Anecdotal.
Yeah, anecdotal. There's no evidence of supernatural or unexplained fertility effect. So,
can I segue into something?
Yeah, sorry. In many women, so just let me finish this one thing.
Yeah, of course.
In many women, especially with conditions like PCOS, it's for some reason that's. Anyway, I'll get off the topic because I'm not really qualified.
No. Well, it's interesting. I mean, it is an interesting thing, though. I mean, just the expertise of doctors is just something that really that they're starting to look a lot more like salesmen for the pharmaceutical industry to me. I mean, most of them, not all of them, but the specialists. And I hope he's not listening because he's a nice man. The doctor who took care of I had a skin condition, and I inject a biologic into it, and a biological injection that I have once a month that got rid of my psoriasis, and it was a psoriasis that was linked to what's the arthritis? So it's called arthritic psoriasis, and the psoriasis made my nails look completely manky. It was more they looked. I mean, then so my nails weren't really growing, They were kind of just riddled with this, and all around my nails as well. And anyway, I take this biologic, and within 2 weeks, my condition's completely gone. Everything. So fast and so furious. And but this doctor who got me onto it, he just really just knew how to navigate the system. I had to try 2 other medications and they had to fail. And he was just like, we need to cover this. We need to get through this hurdle. But he was absolutely just trying to match me up with this drug that costs $3,500 a month. Okay? Thanks to the Australian system, my little green Medicare card covers that. Beautiful.
Great,
It cost me
yes.
$17 a month, I think, something like that.
Beautiful.
$30 a month for that. It's an expensive, these biologics. And by biologics, it's a new class of drug. I suppose that's the word, class of drug, I think. And that are made from things that exist within humans naturally, but you're taking big doses of it sort of thing.
Yeah, okay.
So, and very effective.
Like plasma almost.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do think they still have side effects and stuff, but I think they're overall a much safer form of medication because you're not putting foreign bodies, you're not putting something foreign.
Occurring, yeah.
It's natural occurring. That's why. Biologics, but the guy, what he's doing is he's just matching that, and it's fine. It's fine what he does because he doesn't do it. He's not trying to pretend to be someone else. But I think that's what doctors are, really. They're these sort of facilitators that are putting together these he's putting me together with something that costs a lot of money to make. So he's making a company a lot of money by healing my concerns, and good on him for doing so. But he's not really doing much more than that. He's definitely doing a job that a computer could replace, but we want a human in that job making those human decisions. It's more the patient that wants the doctor, I think, than anything else, don't you?
100%.
He wants I want the reassurance of a human being. And me less than other. I could have him replaced by a computer without too much problem, to be honest with you. As long as I trusted it's a trust issue though, isn't it?
We're going to have a little song and hear from our sponsors. So we'll be back after this on Stranger Than Fiction.
Station sponsor.
Yes, Stranger Than Fiction. So on my little looking around the internets, people are really in America. People are really disappointed because Thomas Massie was a congressman, a Republican congressman.
Yeah.
Who was he a senator? I don't really even understand.
I think he was.
The two of them. Anyway,
yeah.
He was very anti-war. He was one of the only Republicans really speaking very loudly out against Israelis' influence on the American the American political system through AIPAC. He was very, very anti-war. He definitely didn't fly the Trump flag, right? So in mid-elections, they do this. It's called a primary, right, for different states.
Yeah.
And people are losing their mind over this because he lost his seat because to this other fella, but this other fella received $32 million. I think it was Kentucky was the state. $32 million that was provided by Miriam Adelson, right, and her band of merry donors, Israeli donors. And, the internet, the conservative, just people concerned about the goings on in their country of American influences on the internet have absolutely lost their mind over this because how is it that a foreign, what do you call? I mean, she is a citizen. She's a citizen of, Miriam Adelson is a citizen of America and also she's a dual citizen. So it's not like it was, there's some gray areas around this funding, but, to be the only guy left really, screaming the truth from the rafters, to be, and Tim Dillon did it. It was a fresh video today. Check it out; it's hilarious. But this guy was this candidate that was running against Thomas Massie was essentially pro-war. He's pro-conscription, but he's an American hero, right? Like he's an ex-special forces or whatever, military guy, tall. He's just straight off the production line of American war hero.
Yeah.
And they've, he lost his seat. He's gone, and people are going, hang on a minute here, guys. Should that be a thing? Should we be letting, and Thomas Massie said, I get, my donors are predominantly $300 checks by, small local businesses and, retirees going, we think you're doing great, and how am I supposed to compete with this enormous budget, for this state primary? It's just wild. And I think the noise is getting really loud now. And look, where this ends up, I don't know, but I think there will be a reckoning for this relationship at some stage. There has to be.
There's people that just resonate something. So I was about to say something about Rand Paul, and Rand Paul's one of those people that he just resonates a level of integrity. I don't know that much about him. He may, in some areas, I don't even know what his stance is on Israel. And my feeling is it'd be pretty independent one, because he's an independent dude. He just is. And just there's so few of them that you hear. I mean, and he just talks about things that just aren't popular. Will I give you a little spiel from him?
Yeah, please.
He's talking just on Instagram. I saw him talking about scientists who are paid by the CIA, for instance.
My kind of guy.
Scientists like Peter Daszak and Ralph Barrick were deeply involved in gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute, and they had government ties and intel contacts. Their emails exposed them privately acknowledging lab leak risks, but publicly lying, spreading the natural origin story to protect themselves. So very much saying and advising each other, and that they're being paid by the CIA, and that's been proved, and that they're on the payroll, and what they say in private is completely different to the narratives that they say publicly. And this has also been proved. And Rand Paul just says it very matter-of-factly. And how come he's allowed to? And
who
why
is
there's
Rand
so
Paul? Who is
few?
he?
Have you not seen him?
No.
He's a senator.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah. He's very much, I think he calls himself a libertarian.
Okay.
Libertarian is another word for I have my own ideas on anything kind of thing. It doesn't really mean that much. It just means we don't trust government, basically, even though I'm part of the government. I think government's a sham. But it's basically saying free enterprise should run everything.
Yeah, libertarians, that's exactly what. And I think that is and I love libertarians in some of their what they think, but it is absolute madness to let a free economy decide all these things. They want to shrink the government down to almost nothing and let, the free markets prevail. And I think
if people were good, if we were good natured,
if we were
good natured people, and I think Rand Paul is sort of coming from that sort of, he's sort of saying if people were as trustworthy as I am, it'd be a great system, and maybe he believes that they are, but if he does, he's wrong. I mean, he can't really believe that because he's up against them all the time. I'm not saying he's a saint. I'm just saying he's one of those people that whenever I hear him talking, he's saying something pretty ballsy. And, so, and just what it comes down to is, I mean, what is the intelligence operations around, who's the one that put it, that what intelligence basically is it's a collaboration between the mafia and business and government. That's what the intelligence agencies are. So they're basically saying, see what the criminal organisations are doing. Government not allowed to do that. We need a secret government organisation that does that. And that's really what it's about.
That's what intelligence is.
It's also gaining spies, but it's all the same thing. It's all criminal. Everything you're doing, because the spy operation is a criminal operation in a way. You're infiltrating
Outside
other
the
people.
law, yeah.
You're infiltrating other people's organisations in order to do the dirty on them. You're doing it for moral reasons, but then you need to fund that. And what's the best way of making money? Well, they see these criminal organisations and they say, and this has been happening since the beginning of these, because that's the whole point behind it. We need a budget, and we need a budget that's bigger than what we're given. How do we do that? Well, selling drugs or gambling or any of those things, that's a good way of doing it. So that's where they go.
So another thing that's been just absolutely going viral on the internet, right? So there's this guy called Vice Admiral Robert Hayward, and he was on an interview. I believe it was on Fox, or one of the big, it was a big network in America, and he's sort of become popular for his breaking down the sort of military political kind of landscape and making it simple for the people, right? And he's come out recently and had this massive, update on this really big news network. And it was just so clear under his where his neck met his shirt, right, is just he's clearly wearing a mask. But when you put the real Admiral Robert Hayward's photo next to the guy that was speaking on the news, it was just clearly just forget the mask thing that everyone was losing their minds over. It's just definitely a different person entirely.
Really?
Yeah, it so is. Like his eyes are even closer together and his nose is a slightly different shape. It's just not the same guy at all, right? And the internet has just launched at this. It is everywhere at the moment.
I saw the thing about the neck and I just thought, what do I know? What do I know?
Yeah.
I mean, is that the real footage? And it looks weird. It looks like a flap in the neck, but I just don't know what to trust anymore. And I'm kind of like, what are the implications of that anyway? I mean, I think it's what they're getting at.
Well, I mean, I think it's just clearly an example of, I wonder how many people have, how many times this has been happening before. Like it is absolutely wild. I'm going to try and find a before and after photo of this guy. I should have screenshot. It's not very good listening, but it's just that's the photo of him with his thing.
I've seen it,
and look. I've seen
it everywhere because, as you say, the internet it lost its mind over.
But have a look. Just take a snapshot of what that guy looks like, right?
Yeah.
Right, and then now look at who he actually. That's what he actually looks like. That's the guy.
The same guy. No.
It's just not the same guy. And all the comments are saying, regardless of whether he is or isn't wearing a mask, it is just clearly not the same person. You just wonder, right? I mean, there's that story of they wanted to show one of the ex-presidents how effective this mask technology was. So one of them, masqueraded as his head of security, started giving him a debrief, and then halfway through pulled off this mask and said, that's how good. And he's like, oh my God, how good is that technology? And, you just got to wonder how long and deeply this stuff has been actually going on. I mean, he's in the news update, he looked like a,
no, it's a different guy.
He looked like a young guy.
It's a different guy.
It is just a completely different person.
I'd love to hear Tim Dillon talk about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Tim Dillon's take on it, on the whole thing. We don't believe it anyway. We know that it's a lie. We just don't care why it's a lie. Like, we don't even care anymore why you're lying to us. It's just all lies. Like, it could be this, could be that, could be the other.
Yeah, he said that in his latest video. He goes, I just think I'm at the point now, and I am too, like, everything is a psyop. Like, everything is a psyop.
It's a psyop on a psyop, within a psyop.
Yeah.
It's an enigma wrapped in a conundrum. But it just makes you think that in the end, so why? Well, in the end, confusion. Confusion is a goal. Confusion's great. You got all these people going, oh no, and get the conspiracy theorists arguing amongst themselves. Get them all going,
definitely.
Oh no, you've gone too far. Oh no, you're just being sobbed. Oh, you're... It's perfect. It's great. So what do you do to create chaos within chaos? And that's what I mean. I think that this whole unveiling, how do you capitalise on the unveiling? Well, you just create this chaos like that. And I would say that mask was very much done on purpose. Leave that gap there to do it. It's very clear. The cameraman would absolutely be 100% aware of it's a very clear thing. It's not like it wasn't like a little thing. So it's like they've got to know they're doing it, and
We also wonder if we, and this is exactly what I think is happening with the UFO disclosure thing at the moment. So the US government's putting out these absolute nothing burgers. They deliver.
But CNN, they're talking about the 4 different types, and there's the lizard ones, the insectoids. Now, I've never heard that.
Yeah.
I've never heard that, and then they're talking about it as though that's the narrative on CNN. Oh, there's 4 different types, are there? Yeah, there's the tall Nordics, there's the short greys, there's the insectoids, and there's the lizard people. They're the 4 types, and it's like, what are you on about?
Yeah.
I've never heard it sort of, but really being pointed out like this is the ABC 101 of aliens. Like what's going on?
And so one of the documents, and I think I talked about this a few shows ago, was they released a memo or a communication thread between these high-ranking officials discussing whether what the unidentified flying objects were and whether they were a threat to the thing. So I think they're very deliberately releasing information where they're not sure what's going on, right? And that's part of the psyop too. Yeah. And I also think with this, if you show everybody somebody clearly wearing a mask, all of a sudden we're not talking anymore about deep fake AI videos, because they could have easily, with the technology that they have, they could have very easily got this Robert Hayward, as a AI guy and just had him sitting there saying in a perfect likeness of himself. They could have done that, but they didn't. They chose to put this guy out that looks completely different to him. And I also think, Jim Carrey, John Travolta, every day there's a celebrity that comes out that looks nothing like the original celebrity. And all of a sudden, we never got to the bottom of who this fake Jim Carrey really was. And there was all these people coming in with different perspectives going, nah, guys, it was a prank, right? And that's not the real Jim Carrey. And Jim Carrey was never keen on any of the red carpet stuff. He thought it was all bollocks. And he was on one of his, he went on Jimmy Kimmel's show and he was exposing the Illuminati, right, with the thing. And could that have been you just don't know, Troff, in this crazy world of the internet and media, you just don't even know what is going on.
Well, I don't think you ever have. And so it's kind of, you still got to just have a few trusted sources, and you got to have people to vet the information a little bit for you. But, I just love Tim Dillon, his take on it. He's right though. He's like we're not believing it. For instance, with disclosure, right? If they were talking about, there's a lot of evidence of the fact that these UFOs have been there and they've shut down a nuclear facility when it's gone to DEFCON 1. Now, this has happened multiple times across Russia and America, and there's so much evidence for it. Like on one of the ships, there was 33 or in the 30s of people saying that we tried to go to is it called DEFCON 1? Whatever. There's a level, where you're saying we're going towards, you have to go to 4 levels before you can press the button. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to go to the first one saying, did it, and the alarm goes off and you're breaking down the safeguards to the barriers to stop you from pressing the button, right? And you've got to go to a few different levels. And they went to the first level and they just went, pew! There was just no power on the whole boat. And there's no switch that you can switch. And they just depowered this huge aircraft carrier. And then they were just hovering there, like 4 orbs were just hovering there as if to say, we're the ones who did that. We can do that anytime we like. So no threat. They posed no threat. They didn't want. So all they're saying is, you're not pressing the button today. Not today. We can do that, and we can do that anytime we like. And they've done this a number of times, and it's one of the best stories that I think, the best narratives about UAPs, because I really trust it, because it's come from there's so many people talking about it, and they're not. They've got nothing to gain, and they're not trying to spin the narrative. You can hear they're just saying, "Anyway, that's what happened," and I've been afraid to say it, but people are saying it. A lot of people are saying it now, and I just want to go on record and say that's what happened.
Yeah,
and it's like it's a wonderful narrative, and yet you're just never going to hear things like that. You're just not going to hear that. And
I mean, pilots have said that they disarmed their missile targeting systems. So not only did they, obviously, let's pretend that this truly happened. Not only can they get into the technology to just shut it all down, obviously in reference to the ship example, but they can specifically, turn off certain componentry to the fighter crafts to not be able to, find a target. So the targeting systems went offline specifically.
Yeah, right.
And a few pilots have said that as well. As soon as they were in the airspace, they didn't let them target the orbs as potential threats.
They're basically saying, we're not doing you any harm, but we can. If we could, if we wanted to, we can do anything we want, kind of thing. We can do things without you even knowing how we're doing it. So we're way beyond that. But they don't want to say that. Instead, they want to say, like, these insectoids, and these lizard people are the two out of the four aliens. The other one's the tall Nordics, and the other one's the short greys. That's something that people are going to have slight nightmares about, aren't they? I mean, it's not a particularly uplifting narrative, is it? It's a worrisome narrative, is it not?
Yeah.
It's one that's going to make people a little concerned that you don't think an insectoid's necessarily, like a praying mantis, as we know, bites the female bites the male's head off during sexual congress. Now, I mean, I'm just going there because you don't think that a life-sized, the size of a human, an insect the size of a human, you don't really want to come across one in a dark alley, do you?
So there was very recently, I believe it was in the last couple of days, there was a second dump of documents on this UFO disclosure scenario. So I've just had a little look and asked my mate G what was actually officially released. So here is the list of what came out in the USA's disclosure scenario. So it was hundreds of new documents, 200 plus files, a mix of military reports, intelligence notes, and historical case files spanning from the late 40s to modern day, right? One highlighted file was an A 116-page report describing 209 sightings of green orbs, discs, fireball-like objects near secret facility in Sandia, New Mexico, 1948 to 1950. New videos of UAP encounters included footage of glowing orbs and cluster formations, cigar-shaped objects, unidentified objects tracked near military aircraft, sightings over places like Iran, Syria, and the Middle East. Some videos show objects moving in ways that are hard to witness or explain. Number 3 is first-hand witness testimony. Number 4 is NASA astronaut material, old NASA audio and transcripts, including astronaut reports of strange lights in space, flashes and streaks of light seen during missions. NASA's explanations generally point to optical effects, spacecraft-related phenomena, and human perception effects. So what it did not include alien bodies, recovered spacecraft, blah, blah, blah.
Who is curating this?
Well, that's exactly the point. I mean, they are just pros at giving these little crumbles of nothing burgers, which is absolutely nothing that's not already in the public domain. But without saying, and look, again, I think, and look, I don't know, and nothing would surprise me, but if I had to put $100 on one scenario, it would be that they absolutely have a deal with these beings. They know kind of what they are, and they also know that they're so powerful that if they decided that they wanted this little planet back, that they would have it in a jiffy. And I think I think it's as simple as that they just can't let that out to know, because people would lose their mind. Yokels with their guns in America would want to find these facilities and
What
start
difference
killing
does it
things.
make, though?
Well, no, I do think that. I think there is something to the fact that people that have seen far enough behind the veil do know and do honestly believe that the public would lose their minds over it. You know what I mean? And it'd be a situation where they might never be able to get that control back on the population and that trust back. If that's what I mean, far out. I mean, we've just covered nanoparticles. Anything, and this is why I think the world is a psyop, and I don't know what's up, right, and down, whatever anymore, is because whenever you dig far enough into absolutely anything, pick a topic that is just slightly strange to you and put in just a couple of days. I know that seems like a lot, but over a month, do an hour a day on and see what everyone's perspectives are. Look at some actual documents. Try and point. And the most obvious place when you're looking for conspiracy theories on the internet is who funds what, right? And then you'll
follow the money.
Follow the money, and you'll quickly find out that it's a bunch of dudes doing some nefarious stuff.
Most people don't want to know.
They don't want to know.
I mean, that's why I do disagree with that, because that is a narrative that I don't agree with, and I hear a lot. People won't handle it. It's like people have been handling weird stuff for donkey's years, I mean, I think JFK is a really good example, because the single gun theory is bonkers. It's nuts. It makes absolutely no sense. And then you were called a conspiracy theory for not believing it. So most people believed it because of that, even though it's absolutely insane. It's bonkers. 9/11 is, again, it's insane. There's in the history of the world, a building has not free fallen, a steel building has not free fallen from something like crashing into it. It's just not how it falls to the ground. It is not the way it falls to the ground. It falls over in sort of kinks and tonk and kunk, and it can get really hot, but it just doesn't fall like that. That's not the way it comes down, ever. In the history of the world, never. I can say that absolutely categorically. And why does that? And then people just go, no, but... So we've been really effectively brainwashed. So again, all that it needs to happen with these people is that they need to hang on to a narrative that someone comes out with that makes sense to them. And someone always does that. They always go, no, the thing is, what really happened? And there's countless people that have done it with 9/11. I've looked them up. They come up with all the sensible reasons why the people are... and ChatGPT, I think, points to buildings that have come down in a similar way, and then you look it up and it's not similar at all. I looked at the one that ChatGPT told me was similar, and it was in Iran or something like that, and it was a building that was bombed really badly, and it heated up, and it kinked over and then kinked this way, and it came down in a very dramatic way, but it didn't fall down. It didn't fall down anywhere near real time. That's not what happens. So there's not one example that they can point to, and yet there's all these people going, oh no, the 97% of engineers all say that that's the way it goes, and there's all these people saying that all the smartest people on the planet are all agreeing. It's like the 97% of climate scientists agree. I mean, if you dig into that statistic, that's wild. You had to fill out a survey form if you were applying for funding. So any funding application needed you to basically fill out a form that was very clear that you had to agree that man-made climate warming, global climate change was caused by man, right? And all this stuff. So it's all there. But whatever narrative you want to believe, there's some very good representatives there, and always will be. So I don't think the truth is ever too much, because they just don't believe it. They go, oh, who's going to tell me about that? Oh, I'll just listen to this guy. And they'll tune into this guy. And unless that guy wants them to go mad or wants to...
Well, it always comes back, in my opinion, to the people who let information come to them or go and seek the information. And I think, if you're one of the people, the rare people, and I think we're getting more and more, sort of, I guess, cavalry. The cavalry's arriving of people who are seeking out the truth. But if you're one of those people that trust the media to tell you what's going on, I mean,
gosh help you.
Anything goes. So we're just going to hear from our sponsors and we'll be back after this. Yes, so Stranger Than Fiction, we're back. We're back here, baby. So
I hope you tuned out. No, you didn't tune out. You might have gone to the loo instead of listened to maybe just the first one.
The first one. To be a bit contradictory probably to what we're sort of banging on about. But I just think...
Make up your own minds, folks.
Yeah, I just think, it's just crazy. It's crazy what's going on. So, Trov, you're going to be away for a bit. When does that happen again? Sorry, I know I've asked you 1,000 times.
I'm away on Thursday. I'm flying into Bangkok and in Thailand. And my cousin lives there and I'm going to spend a few days there. Then I'm over to China for a chi tour, mate.
Yes.
A chi tour.
Get your chi absolutely amped up.
Ranking.
Yeah.
Now, chi, what is it? Oh, I don't really know. Can't really tell you. But it's kind of energy source. Qigong, Tai Chi, that sort of thing. It's an energy source. Some might even say that the parasites around the earth that people say get you loosh, that might be, it might be chi, have something to do with chi.
Well, I think there's, I did a weird esoteric, I got right into this, turned out to be kind of a bit of a cult in the end, bit of a Barry, but he was big on the difference and he called it, he called the bad energy prana, which was very contradictory to stuff, and the good energy something else. It was like source or light or whatever. And it was a very different kind of energy. And I would relate chi to, I would hope, sort of melding more of your true consciousness into your natural body system and allowing the flow of the good juices rather than the, but I think we would agree it's all frequency, isn't it? Up and down. So,
but it comes from the chi principles. From the Taoist principles as well. So what does Tao mean? Well, Tao is the flow. And you see someone doing really. Thing about watching. I've only watched it because I've done a little bit of Tai Chi, but not that much. But when you see someone who's a real expert, it's such a beautiful, energetic flow. It makes so much sense just seeing them do it. It's a very beautiful art. And you understand that it's coming from a place of wisdom. If you really look at just the actions, and it's about getting the body to flow. And then some of the Qigong is fantastic too. It's just sort of waking the body up. So morning Qigong, you kind of slap yourself under the arms, like boom, 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 boom. You give yourself
lymphatics going.
Just get everything moving and shaking. So it's really good. And these Chinese fellas, these two teachers, so the main principle of Qi is just smile and dance and be happy and don't be bogged down by life. And I think, it's a lesson that we could all use a bit more of, and I certainly could, because it's, when I dropped in on me aging mum the other day, and poor girl, she's got dementia pretty bad, but we cranked on some what's his name? Start spreading the news. Frank Sinatra, and cranked it up. She knows every word. And I'm like, we're going to dance to this one, Mum. And we danced, and she's singing, and we're dancing, and she remembers every word better than I remember the words.
Yeah.
And I hope that's not because I'm following in her footsteps. But you realise that this is the medicine
Yeah.
of life.
Yeah,
and
totally.
these guys they're always smiling. And it's like, yeah, they acknowledge that there's real problems in the world, and they definitely go there as well. But they just do not get bogged down by that. They're like, there may be problems in the world, but I am peaceful and happy always.
Amazing.
And that's their thing. I'm going to look forward to just spending a bit of time with these dudes and going to some of the most beautiful parts of China, flying into Wu, and then a week there, and then to Jining. Now, Xining, that's not how you pronounce it. I had a Chinese Uber driver on the weekend, and he said, you pronounce it China. And I tried it 5 times and I can't do it. So I'm doing it.
You're going there.
Grave disgusted. Going there for a week. It's supposed to be really good. For Chengdu, the good thing about Chengdu is the capital of the Sichuan era.
Ooh.
So if you like your spicy food, which I do, as long as it's not too spicy, don't like it when it burns twice, if you know what I mean,
Yeah, I know
folks.
exactly what you mean.
And then ending up for a week in Tibet.
Ooh, you're going to be vibed up.
Yeah,
You're going to just be floating into
Yeah,
the studio
mate.
on the way back, Trov.
Oh, yeah.
So is it if you don't mind me asking, is it like a pre-organized tour that you're ferried around, or you've kind of pieced this together yourself?
No. The 3 weeks, I'm with a group of chi dudes, and we do a bit of chi in the morning, and then we're going here for lunch, and I don't even know how many. I like to ask less questions and just be surprised.
Yeah, nice.
But I've heard that these guys are really good dudes, and they'll be so much fun to travel with. And I trust that this is the case.
Yeah, nice.
And so I'm surrendering all my chi to them.
Great. Yes. Oh, that's excellent, mate. Congratulations. Good on you. Man, there's something so, even without the chi, just getting out of the routine of
I think so.
your life. It's so important to do
You got
that.
you just got to shake things up. Like what are those little things that snow in the
a snow globe.
Snow globe, little snow globe. I'd shake it up a bit and watch the snow coming down.
Yeah, get that neural
Shake your life
plasticity
up.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like China, and I feel incredibly safe in China. Like really, really safe. Surprisingly, like safer in. Admittedly, I went to.
Don't even need a visa.
Yeah.
30 days.
Yeah, there you go. Boom.
If you're an Aussie.
Yeah.
According to ChatGPT, I hope ChatGPT hasn't misled me on that one.
Yeah, you might want to just double check that. But yeah, no, well, that's good for you. Good for you. So we're obviously going to be away for what might be 4 weeks.
I'm back on the 5th of July.
Okay.
So that'll be a Sunday on about the 11th or something like that.
Okay, sweet.
And we'll be back on there. So we've got about six weeks off. Unfortunately, 5 weeks off, I think.
Nice.
I think 5 weeks off.
There you
So
go.
I'm gonna miss this show. I mean, there's a chance I could do a phone in. I don't know.
It's probably a bit tricky, man. And I honestly think it's good for you to just fully immerse yourself in what's going on and be present with give time to yourself. I might find a random conspiracy theorist and do an odd show, but I'm not going to push it. If something comes along, we can have a chat, great. But if not, you'll find us on Spotify. We've got 3 episodes there, and I'll have 3 more up at some point during the week. I'll get them all edited and ready to go.
Rock and roll.
And so on that note, just keep doing what you're doing out there, guys. You're doing wonderful.
Lots of love, folks. Have a great week. Catch you on the flip side.
Yeah, enjoy your trip, Trov.
Thanks, mate.